Hello and welcome to the Future Skills Show, brought to you by Truro and Penwith College and the Future Skills Institute. My name is Russell Cosway and I'm hosting a discussion with industry professionals, educators and students on the emerging skills in businesses and what's needed from education. We hope to dispel some myths, define some challenges ahead and do some crystal ball gazing. In this episode we're talking about the construction industry. It's hard to miss the amount of building going on in our towns and villages, and if you have tried to get a builder to do some work of late, you will have found that challenging at best, impossible at worst. Perhaps the 3.1 million people employed in the industry are not enough. To help build a picture of the skilled challenges in the construction industry, I have with me Giles Corby, who's the Managing Director of Corby Construction, Mark England, who's the Head of Innovation, Maintenance and Group Procurement at Coastline Housing, Richard Billington, who's Team Leader for Construction at Truro and Penwith College, and Jack Croucher, who's coming to the end of studying his T-level in Design, Surveying and Planning at Truro and Penwith College. Welcome all to the show.
Cheers, thank you.
Now I thought, this is construction and I've got a few green bones in my body, so I thought we'd have a quick chat about what sustainable construction is. Perhaps Mark, I could turn to you. What do you think sustainable construction is, and probably at the same time just introduce us to what Coastline Housing does?
Yeah, so sustainable construction from our perspective is looking at sort of where we source our sort of particular labour and resources from and trying to make sure that everything is sustainable. But also taking into account waste and the energy efficiency of homes. So at Coastline we're trying to build as energy efficient homes as possible, trying to use as much local labour as possible, and really looking to try and invest in the sort of local labour infrastructure. I think it is really important to look at the end user as well and trying to make sure that the property is using the minimum amount of energy as it possibly can. So it's got to be designed in the right way, the right orientation, it's got to be thought through right from the very start.
Okay, and same question to you, John?
Yeah, so we build, we're bricklaying contractors, so we do masonry for new build housing and such like. So sustainable for us would be using local workforce. So we heavily invest in training local Cornish people, so that would be sustainable for us to limit travel for our construction. And again, touching on what Mark said, the design's really important. So the designs that we follow are more sustainable, and the products that we use. So yeah, that would be how we would look at sustainable in our company and in the industry that we work in.
Keeping it local.
Local's a really keen thing for us,
and
yeah.
Design. So what design brings us on to you, Jack? What's your thoughts on green construction?
Coming from my course, it's more we're looking at it before construction's even begun. So as Mark was saying with the design, how you can build a house with like the most renewable materials and like the energies used to construct the house, just so it's in its optimum performance, and even after when you're maintaining it, that the easier like renewable energies can be used in the most effective way.
Okay, so this goes also into the, not just the actual build, but also how you're going to heat the place.
Yeah, how you're going to maintain it. Like
it.
underfloor heating, for example, has become a lot more of a sustainable way of heating a home because it holds it for a lot longer.
Oh, okay.
Rather than having like coal fires and everything like that. It's just loads of smoke, and it's not ideal. Yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely see the comparison there. Okay, yeah, brilliant. And the hard job is winding up on your thoughts there, and a little bit about your role in the college.
So for us, of course, it's the same as Mark, Giles, and Jack have said. It's about reducing the carbon footprint in the industry. It's about using renewable and recyclable materials. It's looking at the efficiency of the end product. But for us, it's really how we bring this into a curriculum. Jack, of course, like you said, studying the T-level. There's a big element of sustainability within that. But it's educating the learners of how it's relevant, how we still have traditional build, but also adapt to the future to meet the needs of the companies such as Coastline with Mark.
Okay, so obviously we've got the actual construction fabric build, and you commission more new builds, but maintenance is a big issue as well in your world.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So we need maintenance professionals who come through are multi-skilled, so that they can actually carry out various different types of repair without to improve the customer journey really, so that the work can be done nice and quickly and efficiently, but to a really high standard. So, you know, using modern methods of construction sometimes will challenge some sort of more traditional tradespeople and how they can be repaired. And also, you know, taking into account the design and the sustainable sort of side of the building and how energy efficient it is. You don't want to damage that infrastructure. You want to be able to sort of repair it in the right way. So I think, you know, we need those mixes of skills on the new builds, but we also need to be able to repair things, maintain, and also retrofit. So I think we'll probably come on to retrofit later on.
Yeah, but in your business, the skills that you need are quite varied, but you do try to look at multiple skills in one person.
Yes, particularly in the repairs area, we're looking for sort of people who are who have a key skill, a core skill, and are trained then and become more trained in sort of wider skills. So that might be someone who does plumbing type work, and that's their traditional trade, but can also do some sort of dry lining repairs, because if there's been a leak, then we need to be able to fix that leak and do it efficiently. It doesn't mean necessarily that they need to know how to plaster, because if we use dry lining, then that's a different skill completely.
Okay.
So it's trying to get a mixed variation of skills instead of having to send 3 different sort of individuals to carry out one small repair.
Okay, and in your world, Giles, the kind of roles that you have in your business, thinking not just of the people on the site, what other roles have you got as well
For
in your company as a whole?
So we predominantly, because we supply bricklayers, we've got the training up side of it. So we work closely with Truro and Penwith College and that, and have done for quite some time. So we have apprentices that then train as apprentice bricklayers or stonemason bricklayers, we bring that on every year. We recruit every year and bring the youngsters through. So yeah, that's the main roles of
bricklaying and the offer. Presumably you've got people in the office.
Yeah, so we've got commercial manager, so there's options for quantity surveying and that side of thing, and the looking at the designs and the basically the sort of admin roles and things like that.
So Richard, how does education support the construction industry then?
Well, I think it's adapting absolutely to the changes in industry. Of course, we've always had qualifications in, like Giles said, the apprenticeships in bricklaying, carpentry, painting, decorating, plastering, what we call the core subjects. But going forward, I think the landscape needs to change quicker. It's happening. We've brought in the T-levels, which of course provides a pathway then to a more professional role in the industry, so more diverse. But I think, the DFE need to, work with colleges and providers to try and change the curriculum to meet the needs of the future landscape. Now, they had a large coal of qualifications, maybe 18 months, 2 years ago, because there's many of these 1-year non-meaningful qualifications that didn't lead anywhere. So it's really about stripping that back and introducing new qualifications. Funny enough, maintenance is one of the ones we used to have, and they used to go on the maintenance operations program, they called it, for 2 years, and it got stripped away, and they brought out a new model which didn't really serve the purpose.
Okay.
So, but they do listen to us. They do take our opinions on board. They change the curriculum when they see fit and when they, think we've got a fair point. Funny enough, they just reinstated the old maintenance qualification. Obviously, there's a need for it. They've realised there is a need. Employers are saying there's a need. We say there's a need. It's been brought back in. So that's something we can definitely do in the future.
Yeah, interesting why they would take something away that was being used. If it hadn't fallen into, a low attendance or anything, did it?
No, it wasn't always the biggest recruiter for us. I don't know about nationally.
Yeah.
But a lot of people want to go into a specific trade. Now, in Cornwall, of course, we'll all be aware that there's a lot of one-man bands, smaller builders, who do general work. So my background, I was a bricklaying apprentice, so I was a bricklayer. But I would do stud work, I would do boarding, I'd do a bit of skimming. But my predominant trade was bricklaying. But now I think it's the rise of subcontractors, and I myself as a subcontractor, subcontractors work with Giles, of course, it's his game. People just specify in set areas, and I think maintenance has taken a bit of a back seat. So I think we definitely need to bring it to the forefront. For sure.
Okay, good. And Jack, from your perspective, obviously you've come up through the system.
Yeah.
What's it been like getting? How did you end up in design, surveying, and planning?
So, coming up through school, there's not much to do with construction. It's very just obviously like your core subjects, your English, maths, sciences, all of that.
Yeah.
There's nothing really to specify. I mean, you had DT, but a quarter of it was cooking. So,
Okay.
yeah,
What's CT stand for?
design technology.
Okay, designing a dish. Okay,
I
fair
mean,
enough.
this is just at my school, but that's all we had.
Yeah.
So the only thing that was there was to do with electronics, and I quite enjoyed it. So I was going to do an electronics apprenticeship,
Okay.
which fell through because of all the COVID stuff and all of that.
Oh.
But I've always wanted to have the sort of higher management roles that you can look at in construction. I've always been interested in town planning, project management, that sort of thing.
Okay.
So I came and talked to Richard at Trio College, and you were just starting the T level. So
Yeah, it's an exception. Yeah, it's an open day, I believe. You came along
Yeah.
and had a chat, took them through a specification, and that was for you. You chose, yeah.
yeah,
So started off with an electronics desire, so more engineering than
because that's all I had really.
because that's all you had sight of.
Yeah.
So was it lack of engagement?
Oh,
or
definitely. Yeah, I
visibility
think
of
so.
What businesses offer?
Like before the start of that year, I had no clue what a quantity surveyor was, project manager, that sort of thing, because they're not talked about. It's solely like what I had from those DT lessons, so it
Yeah.
wasn't that much.
And I mean, you obviously both of you involved very much with the college, so you're probably converts to engaging with education. What do you think business needs to do generally, perhaps, Giles?
So I've just got involved very recently in going to schools and trying to give my advice as someone in the industry to then help career leads to knit the two together. So I did an event yesterday, funnily enough, where we were encouraged to explain to the kids different job roles that they might not know were available. So
Yeah.
one of the things we did, we gave them a packet of Haribo sweets. Obviously, there's other sweets available, but we gave
on the
them.
BBC.
We gave, I know, I'm joking. We gave them a packet of Haribo sweets, and we said, right, you list how many jobs go into making that packet of sweets, So they were coming up with like 70 different jobs because the packaging and they were. You could see them really engaging and realising. So that ties in with what Jack's saying there. At school you do a subject, and it's very kind of sort of centred on something, but you're not even aware of certain jobs that exist, So I think as an employer and with very keen eye on bringing people in with a more open mind, it's getting that knit between the employers and the industry to work alongside education to get that link, so that you're making the kids and the youngsters more aware of all these jobs that are available that, like Jack said, that you wouldn't know, would you?
No.
And what age were you talking to? Then?
So they were year 9s yesterday, so they're just doing their
Their
options.
Yeah.
So again, pretty crucial time.
Is that too late, perhaps, Mark? Do you think 13's too late to inspire a new generation to think of construction as a potential?
Yeah, I think as children sort of go through education, I think if you could give them experiences much earlier, I think they can make much better sort of decisions about their future, and be able to have sort of like taster sessions or work experience type things right the way through, maybe from sort of the age of 12 or something, maybe 10, just to be able to get a sight of what goes on with a construction site or in maintenance, or how boilers are serviced. We need to take into account that gas boilers won't exist forever, so we need to know about sustainable heating as well. And if they can start to sort of look at those types of systems and understand how they work, then they're the engineers of the future. At least they'll have seen it, they'll have tried it, and then they may not wish to do that. They may wish to sort of go to a different area in masonry, or they might want to become carpenters, or maybe sort of do an external wall insulation or products for the future. But I think it'd be really useful, and I think children would really enjoy sort of being able to get out there and test and try things. You can't beat being on a site and looking and poking at things and sort of having a go, and that experience I think would really help.
Yeah, I guess it's a health and safety issue with bringing a class full of 10-year-old
chainsaw.
But yeah, hey, we'll let them work that one out. So, Jack, if I could turn to you,
Yeah.
Obviously, we mentioned design.
Yeah.
What have you drawn out of your course about the value of design in the construction industry?
Right.
How important is design to you?
I think everything comes from design, obviously. Like,
Yeah.
you cannot have anything without design. If you design something wrong, it's going to be built wrong. If you can design something properly, you get a better product. It's literally it's like the groundworks for anything to do with construction. I think design is the most key part of it.
You see these amazing programs where what's the building plan? What?
Grand design.
There you go, mental fade. Grand designs. You literally see a grand design, and then you see a bunch of contractors struggling to deliver that design because it is just bonkers. It might be highly sustainable. How do you strike a balance in the design process? Have you thought about that?
I've touched a little bit on it. It's because every side have to make sacrifices in what they're doing, but as long as you can like kind of meet where they're kind of both optimal, because obviously I know there's some designers where they're like, yeah, we want something that's like this, and it's basically impossible with what they want you to build, and I'm sure you guys have had struggles with that sort of thing. But
have you had struggles with ridiculous designs? Which
how long's this?
It's all right. We've got another 40 minutes.
It's not long enough. Not long enough. Yeah, that tie-in of it would be good to link that up with the youngsters. The easiest way to say it is maybe having certain roles doing other roles as part of their job to appreciate what your design is how to carry that out on site. So people appreciating other roles that people do to see. So a designer going on site and actually seeing, actually they would have to do it that way, or is it possible to do it that way?
That was kind of what we were doing, because it's not just design, is it, on the T level? It's more, you look at pretty much everything to do with project management as well, because you get a better understanding for it.
100%. And then that ties in with the sustainable side, because you're not wasting your time and resources and energy on something that's going to fail.
That's sort of a big part of it. I think it's the thinking behind it, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it goes back to the schools, really. I think, when these guys, go start the course, the first task I do is give them a little mini whiteboard and a marker. I say, right, don't look at each other. You've got 30 seconds now to draw a house. It doesn't matter what you draw. You can design anything you want. I don't mind what it looks like. You've got 30 seconds. Tell me you're finished. Class is finished. Turn it over. Hold the whiteboards up. They've all got the same. A square box, a pitch roof, 4 windows, and a door. And I say, you could have designed anything, blank faces. Then I pull down some images of current designs, the future of construction, modular as well, maybe.
Yeah, modular.
And it's a complete shell shock. But I think it's the thinking behind it. If they'd had some investment really in school, people, Giles yourself, going in to schools, having a chat, they'd come to college already knowing what they want to do, have an idea, and making a more informed decision, of course.
Yeah.
But it's joined up thinking, isn't it?
Yeah. Now, of course, in that balance game, Mark, you have to come up with a cost-effective build that is cheap and long living and cheap to maintain. How do you strike a balance with the designers?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that we have come across, and we've come across some fairly recently actually, where the design actually looks really great, and it's only when something goes wrong that you start to unpeel the layers, and then actually you find that you've got to do an incredible amount of work for something that's quite simple, and it's just water ingress, so a leak from a roofing area. And there's been a couple of examples where we've had sort of like balconies and things, and actually once you start to try to fix those issues, it becomes really complicated. You start having to disturb a lot more of the sort of the fabric of the building than you would want to, and that's where the maintenance sort of side, I think, fits into the design training, trying to get it so that they understand that whatever you build, at some point something may fail, so you need to be able to unpick that and be able to fix it efficiently. And I think you're right. Everyone is trying to build homes for really cost-effective prices, and I'm not sure it's cheap, but your cost-effectiveness is really important to us, because we put those properties out. They need to be the right quality. They need to be rentable. We also sell some homes, but they need to be very presentable. They need to be pleasing to the eye. So on the design sort of side of things. But at the same time, very energy efficient. You need to be able to maintain them in an easy sort of or simple way, and be appealing for customers. So the whole design of the internal of the buildings, sort of how you move from room to room, and whether it's slightly open plan, and there's a lot of things to consider. Yeah. And you start looking at sort of things like windows and natural lights. The use of natural lights is really important in properties, and you're reducing then energy bills in the longer term. Yeah. So there's a lot to think about, I think, when you're doing the design. And I get the grand designs, but they always manage to get it finished somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
4 years
Yeah.
to do, yeah.
But
Double the budget.
I wouldn't like to maintain and repair some of those properties. I think that'd be probably quite tricky. Yeah.
Zinc roofs with embedded solar panels. Yeah, I know what you mean. And when we talked before the show, we also talked about the monitoring that you're starting to implement on houses. Perhaps you could give us an insight into that a bit.
Yeah, so we've been working on a project called SmartLine with the University of Exeter and some other partners, including Cornwall Council. And part of that project is around putting sensors in homes. So we're looking at temperature, humidity, volatile organic compounds, and the particulate matter that's in those, so dust that's in those homes. And that gives us we have like a dashboard view, so we can look into the properties and we can see when there are issues with, say, high humidity, and we can advise the customers then that you need to ventilate the home, or is there another problem behind that. So that could be something as simple as the extractor fan in the bathroom not working, and the humidity is therefore not being extracted from the property. It may be a sign of fuel poverty if the property is being underheated.
Yeah.
So we need to sort of look at that. It could be that someone doesn't know how to use their sustainable heating system because they're used to gas, so they're turning an air source heat pump on and off. So you see that on the heating curves, and you'll see that the property won't perform in the way it should do. But also their energy bills will be higher, so we need to be really careful. But the monitoring's really interesting, and we also have the customers have a login so that they can see their own details, and they have some links there, so you can click a link to get advice about high humidity or heating your home. And that's really innovative. It's I think really cutting edge, and it's probably one of the largest projects in Europe. We started with 300 homes, but there's another sort of education process with that for us as an organisation that my building surveyors need to understand, to look at technology, to understand what's going on in a property and when things aren't going as planned. So the high humidity, being able to interfere, if you like, have a conversation with the customer, find out if there is actually a problem. It could be a leak, it could be anything really. So it's really useful technology, and it's people see it, I think, sometimes as maybe Big Brother, but it's really not Big Brother. It's really just a really helpful aid to be able to focus on the properties that are most need, and that could be, say, a leak, or it could be fuel poverty.
And of course, in terms of looking after your tenants, you told me stories of where you've been able to help people in fuel poverty. You spotted it before, but before it became a serious problem with their health or to damage their house even.
Yeah, and I think it's a really important sort of part of it is that we can refer people, signpost them to different grant funding. We can provide hardship type payments, and we can really help. Without the technology, we wouldn't have spotted some of the homes that we did and been able to help those customers early. You can also spot trades and trends in homes, so you can start to see something going slightly wrong, so the humidity starting to creep up in a particular property. That could be lack of ventilation, or it may be that customers have started to dry their clothes on radiators or something. The humidity rising means that we can have a chat with them and make sure that they avoid the next stage, which is mould growth and that condensation issue, which then becomes quite tricky and embarrassing. And feedback from our customers, who we've got a really active group of customers on our customer experience forum. Right. And they've said that, there's definitely customers out there who feel very embarrassed that they've got a bit of mould in the bathroom. Mm-hmm. They don't want to really ring that problem in, and they're not sure how to deal with it. But we can provide that advice and guidance, and we've been really proactive doing that.
That's a brilliant innovation. Have you seen any changes in the actual build processes for introducing more technology?
Yes, massive changes on the horizon, and we can see it feeding into new build housing. So you're seeing your solar panels, you're seeing your the way you heat your homes, like Mark said, that's changing, and heat pumps. Obviously, with the electric car revolution that's on the horizon, you've got to find some way of charging your car. So there's that system that's going to have to be in housing, as well. So we're starting to see that. I go into meetings where us sort of older trades talk about our stuff, and then these dynamic new guys come in talking about all these new technology that will be going in. So it's massive really, and that needs the training and the understanding, not just from the employers and the people that train it, but also the homeowners and the tenants and everything to understand that technology.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, how do you in a curriculum cope with this? Isn't just about bricklaying. This isn't just about training the trades, the core trades, as I think you called them. There's now this. Yeah, now we've got to add all of this tech on, and we need to balance the Internet of Things.
I think the key really is, and I think what awarding bodies, City and Guilds and likes are starting to do now is developing curriculums and qualifications working with employers. I think the first I really saw this was at T-level, where they got a panel of employers around the country to say, what does industry need? What do these new qualifications need to look like? And I think we need to do that going forward. We need to continue doing that. The future of construction, we need to have qualifications for that. City and Guilds, we've got a meeting next week, funny enough, for City and Guilds, about introducing qualifications in sustainability.
Yeah.
I think until people start to jump on board and actually work with employers to see what the industry needs, I think we're always going to be a bit behind. I mean, we're very fortunate at Truro and Penrith College. We trailblaze a lot of qualifications. With T-levels, we've just employed someone for renewables. So we're going to look at solar PV, we're going to look at air source, ground source heat pumps. So we're trying to keep up with the market as best we can, but we rely on the DFE and awarding bodies to work with us to develop qualifications. We're happy to get people in and train, but without qualification, it's not got much worth. So it's a combined effort, really.
And Jack, has the T-level changed? Do you think you've come out of it and the curriculum you started on is not what was absolutely was needed at the end? Is it moving fast enough? Being antagonistic about that.
Well, I mean, it's got to improve, isn't it? You have to antagonise for it to be able to improve. There's a lot on it.
Yeah.
I think there could be more. It could be spaced out maybe into 2 different T-levels or something like that. Definitely.
There's a lot of content, an awful lot. Yeah.
But it's because there was a lack of it to begin with.
Yeah.
That they're so keen just to put loads into it and be like, right, let's just see how it goes. And it's been beneficial, definitely. I've had so much knowledge in it and everything since starting. I was clueless when I started, but compared to now, it's so much better. That's thanks to Richard and everything. There you go. But
Mars bar for Jack later. And I think what you're saying is we've had these conversations that there's so much in it. I think industry said we need legislation, guidance for learners. We need sustainability. We need the science of materials. We need health and safety, and so on and so forth.
So it's just like, right, let's just put it in a package, and then we try to.
So there's modules of each, which we deliver in a case study around modular housing, and But I think the thing is, there's so much. You could almost make 2 qualifications out of the T-level.
Yeah, or make it longer or something. But it's good. I think it's a really good qualification. But there's so much. But I just think it's, as the industry, it's like you've realised, as you were saying with the future construction, there needs to be more knowledge, like further knowledge in all these areas, like sustainability and maintenance and that sort of thing. So it'll become more varied, if you get what I mean.
So would you say, and correct me if I'm wrong, please,
yeah, sure.
The T-level is kind of broad and not detailed, so it doesn't go down into the details of sustainable design, but it does give you a fair understanding of the whole gamut.
I probably agree
I think
with
that's
that.
a fair summary. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think there's so much in it that it's difficult to drill down into certain subjects extensively.
Yeah.
There are talks of the T-levels changing. They'll change each year. Our qualifications change every year. Minorly or major, they change in some form. But there are talks of T-levels being longer in duration. Introductory year, really, maybe, or expansion of some areas. I can see it being sustainability or maintenance. These are the key areas coming out of this, of course. So it will change, but maybe longer. Don't forget, we are the first to deliver it. A select number of providers across the country, because our status, we are one of them, that piloted the T-level. So it's very early days, So Jack's just finishing his. You've got an exam this afternoon, actually. So very fortunate to have Jack.
We got time, don't worry.
But coming to the end of it, but most students have just started in September gone. So I think over the next few years we'll see a big change, especially in T-levels.
Yeah, definitely.
But there's not many students who volunteer to come on a video show. You
don't get to do this every day.
This is true enough. Out of your comfort zone. So, I'm hearing that generalists, kind of what you want in your industry, really, aren't they?
and a little bit more. So we're really focused now, like most organisations, on how we decarbonise. So we need people who have the design skills to retrofit and to design really good sustainable retrofit on our homes. But we need that probably across the whole of Cornwall. We're trying to decarbonise the whole county, not Coastline's not trying to do that, but it's all of our responsibilities. So we need people who can design those solutions, but we also need the right materials. We need the right staff and operatives who can install those items. And then we need people to maintain them, repair them longer term. So decarbonisation isn't just a quick fix, it's going to be there forever. So it's quite difficult sometimes to retrofit certain types of properties if they've got planning restrictions or in a conservation area. Very difficult, to get the right solution. Plus, you're never sure that you're dealing with a property that was 100%, if you like, to start with. It may have had some other issues, and you've got to try and design those and build those out a bit to be able to get to sort of net zero. So different group of skills again, and probably a slightly different T-level type qualification in retrofit would be something that would be very useful, particularly if they can install and then maintain afterwards. And of course, we need the designers as well.
Decarbonisation, how would you use that? What does that mean, really?
So our homes on average create around 2 tonnes of carbon each per year. What we would like to do is get those down to as close to zero as is possible. So that's additional insulation, moving away from fossil fuels, moving away from gas, moving away from oil, and starting to fit a lot more sustainable heating systems, which we have been doing. We've been fitting ground source heat pumps. We've got some going at the moment, air source heating. The government are moving towards decarbonising the electrical grid, so electricity will be one of the key fuels for the future. So no doubt we're going to see some sort of price changes in that in comparison. Yeah, it's going to happen. As we start to phase gas out, then we need sort of different sorts of engineers, because or reskilled engineers. That's something we've probably not really picked up on is around reskilling. Because we've got some fantastic engineers and construction workers in the county. We just need to change and add to their skill base. And then they'll be our people for the future.
Yeah. And so, Giles, from your perspective, the core skills, your skill base is an ancient skill, really. Building is an ancient skill.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Are the materials changing now? Are you seeing that? Or is the same thing used better?
It's very difficult because you touch on it. We're living in a county that things were built out of granite and dug out of the ground, and that comes at a cost, doesn't it? How do you extract that? We use cement, obviously, a lot of it, which I'm no expert, but I think it's quite high on the not good scale of carbon. So there's people a lot more intelligent than me that's going to have to work that one out. But yeah, ours is difficult because. Ours is really difficult to change. I can't see how you're going to change that. Richard mentioned and Jack mentioned earlier about modular, but it still needs some kind of weatherproofing exterior, which is predominantly what our job is, to stop the water getting in the first place.
Hey, we live in Cornwall.
Exactly, and we have to keep a lot of it out, and the wind. My trade, as it were, would be really difficult, I think, because a lot of those products, I'm not sure how you would, make that more carbon neutral, but sustainable would be the main thing that we could change. So, like we touched on earlier, how those products are made, transported, where your labour force comes from, as it were. So, mine would be a difficult one. Carpentry and things like that, possibly a bit easier to sort of
leave trees grow.
Exactly. So a lot of stonework in Cornwall. Again, it's difficult. You're extracting that. So that would be a difficult one for people way more intelligent than me to work out. So,
so decarbonisation, a course for the future.
Yes, absolutely. Like Mark said, retrofit. Yeah. Now they're looking at bringing out small qualification short courses about retrofit, but I think it needs more attention. I think when people say about sustainable living and sustainable homes and decarbonisation, they think about, okay, we're going to build all these new homes, which are going to do all that we say, you know, with the heat pumps, with the solar panels, with the water harvesting. But of course, the homes we currently have, we're going to live in for hundreds of years potentially. So it's really probably more important to retrofit what we have. That's probably the biggest issue we have here. So it's about qualifications coming on board to support that, and providers like us being able to have facilities to support CPD for upskilling our current staff, or bringing in employees from businesses and explaining to them about, you know, how we can go forward with the retrofit. Of course, I agree with Giles. You know, bricklaying, I think, probably has to be one of the hardest ones really to decarbonise. When you think, I think 8,000 BC, I think the first bricks made of, you know, mud, cooked in the sun, hasn't changed much, has it? Now the clay cooked in an oven. So yeah, it's a very difficult one, absolutely, for Giles.
Yeah. Well, it kind of brings us on into new building technologies, I suppose. One of the things I've seen recently is like 3D built houses. Now, obviously, it favours perhaps building something in Africa, where they need quick housing, and having something. Stuff I've seen kind of spins around and slowly makes up a built house. Could we see anything similar to that in the future, where we have a 3D printed social housing?
Never say never. I think modular has probably got the edge on that at the moment.
Okay, yeah.
But I think there's still a lot of room, and again, sort of looking towards designers to start using sustainable materials that are maybe all made from recycled products, and using those using traditional skills to put those products together. And there are some organisations across Europe and the wider world who are using sort of recycled plastics to create different types of brick products. I think 3D printing houses, I'm not sure, but there are organisations doing that across the world. Whether it's the right thing for Cornwall or not, I'm really not sure. Jury's out for me.
Not quite for the
But certainly, I think modular type buildings. I think there's a really good future in those.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, I tried, didn't I?
Yeah, I mean, we look at it in the T
looking at
levels. We look at traditional construction, but also future of, and one of the biggest things we came across was the modular construction, off-site.
Yeah, off-site production.
3D printing, yes, components of, maybe, rather than an actual property 3D printed components of, but we certainly looked at recyclable materials.
But like, to do with the off-site production, when you were saying about the zero carbon and that sort of thing, it's becoming more to do with modular, that you can test all your different materials, the processes of like how you're using them to see how much output it sort of gives in terms of carbon and that sort of thing. So like, it's off-site and it's like away from all the elements and everything. It's literally like the raw data, so you can use that to obviously try and minimise your carbon output, which I think is quite interesting, to be fair.
Yeah, it is. An interesting thought just had, and I don't know who's going to give me a comment on it. You mentioned using waste products in building materials. Isn't that what Mundic Block was?
Yeah.
Yes.
And,
That didn't work out
Yeah.
No, it didn't work
That's
out
right.
well,
did it?
No.
Not all innovations are positive.
No, I sometimes worry that we innovate with waste, and I'm all for it, don't get me wrong, but then you end up storing up something for the future. I live in a house personally built in, was it 1757, I think it was finished. You know, granite, as you've mentioned, the famous granite, but dug out of the ground in Lerrin and hand sculpted. An amazing piece of work, stays standing. But I've also seen houses built in probably middle 20th century being knocked down because they can't be improved, or is it too expensive to retrofit? I mean, it seems wrong to knock down something which is probably a serviceable building because it doesn't quite look right, or it's not hitting a high enough EPC. Should we be investing in retrofitting really?
Yeah, so I think you do have to sit and do the finances. You need to make sure that it's financially sustainable, whatever you're going to do with the property. So some properties, will get knocked down because it's not financially sustainable to retrofit them completely to try to get to net zero. Okay. And that's just because of their original construction. Sometimes, and quite a lot of properties that are getting knocked down are to open up wider developments. You can get more properties on the same size plot. Yeah. So a lot of people now don't particularly want a garden. They want an outdoor space, but not necessarily a big garden that they have to mow and maintain. So there's a whole change, isn't there, really, around sort of our responsibilities and what we want, what are our aspirations. Some people do want large lawns, and a lot of people don't want them.
Oh, I mean, an interesting thought there. I hear you humming an aria on the side. and part of what's playing with me is the natural environment in new builds and in any new build really is we've got to very used to Nansleden, very very large and a very ethically built location, massive new town. How much have they built in the natural environment, the wildflower, the tree, the garden? People don't want a garden. That doesn't mean we shouldn't have one necessarily. Has anything come up on that about the natural building in natural design?
To do with RT level as well, yeah. Well, as you were saying with sustainability, there's a lot, you can use a lot of the natural environment in a build to keep like the natural sustainability up. Like, what was it? There's the walls that have like the flowers on them. That sort
of course.
Garden stuff.
Yes,
everything like that.
But it's a lot about protecting your natural habitat, isn't it? Of course, and encouraging that within the building. We've looked at the green roofs, for example, on properties. So, and Nansleden, you're there now.
Yeah,
that's where Jack's based. So it's a learning curve for you, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it will come up down there, but
yeah,
from what I've seen down there, it's not like, oh, they don't want a garden, we won't have any sort of green space whatsoever. It's all taken into account to like have optimal, greenery, I guess, in space.
And it is part of the planning process now to ensure there's biodiversity net gain. And Cornwall Council actually have been really at the forefront of that and really pushing that sort of message out there that if you're going to develop new properties, then you do have to you have a net gain on the biodiversity of the site. So that's a really positive move. I mean, that's a really good thing. I think probably some developers have probably felt that's quite difficult sometimes and makes it financially difficult.
Yeah.
But actually, it's probably doing the right thing.
And so sometimes you have to count the cost of more than just pounds.
Yes.
The biodiversity. We do get very fixed on the CO2 argument because climate change is obviously a serious crisis. But we need to don't forget that I remember, and I expect some around the table remember driving up to Exeter and having to stop to clean your windscreen on the way up, and now you can drive to London and back again and not get one splat of an insect. And so we are we've got to think of broader issues, haven't we?
Well, the built environment, like Jack said, Nansleden and such like that, I would like to see some of the old style bricklayers that I did my apprenticeship with to say to them, right, you need to go into the office, look at the site plan and see where all your bee bricks, your bird boxes, your bat boxes, your sparrow boxes are, because they're all marked on drawings now. That goes in that gable end and this goes in there. So they'd be like, what are you on about? But yeah, so that kind of it's quite, houses have elements of things built in where birds can nest and bees can go. So that's part of the planning sort of situation now. Wild meadows and areas of open space. And Nansleden you use as an example there. It's a very sort of aesthetically pleasing design, which is nice to work on, isn't it? But yeah, those elements of. So the CO2's like, we need to think about that for the future, but like you just said, Russell, there's things going on right here and now that you kind of need to allow for as well, didn't you? Not just get caught up in what do we need to do for the future. There's elements of it when you do a new estate, you need to think of the here and now, isn't it? So yeah.
So can I just briefly cover what skills you're short on now and what you think you might be short of in the future? I think when we talked earlier, you were saying you could probably double in size.
I could double, triple my workload.
Is that more growth than a skill shortage?
Both. So there's a not just in Cornwall, but there's a pressing demand for housing, which is what we predominantly do. So there's a massive shortfall of housing, whether that's housing for sale or housing similar to Mark in Coastline. So your housing association and such like. So there's that need. I train a lot of apprentices and work closely with the college and have done, so we kind of create our workforce, but that takes time, and to get someone to really high standard probably takes 3 to 5 years, so there's a time scale of that which we don't mind. But if I wanted some sort of here and now skills, you know, there's a massive shortfall of that, not just in my job, in every single job you can think of, going through construction, you know, to what Jack's doing, you know, which is all the design and everything. It's not just the hands-on trades, it's the backroom people, it's literally everybody. So there's a shortage
of people.
Shortage of people. But again, if we can tap into that market of people that don't even know those jobs exist, so that's the first thing that's good. You know, make people aware that construction isn't just the old style jobs, and you know, we touched on it today. Like, you know, it's just endless, isn't it? Like, you know, it's endless amount of jobs in the construction industry and the maintenance side. And if we can tap into, so my job's really male, you know, dominated, isn't it, in the opinion of it, but we're getting more females coming in, like, you know. Yeah, exactly. So we're getting more females coming in, which again, that's an untapped labour resource for us, like, you know, which would massively help. So we need some positive imaging around that would be great.
So familiarising people with the fact that it's not you know, heavy work up ladders and all that kind of.
Well, the modern, you know, we've got more help now. You know, we've got more help with machinery. Things are designed out now, which are great. There's actually, you know, people think about how they design things, health and safety, to make it, you know, can we do that? Can we do that safely? Do people need to be lugging, you know, real heavy equipment around? No, we get machines in to do that now. So that opens up that side of it to people that would maybe have been put off, you know, male and female. So but we need to get that positive sort of image.
We've still got the stereotypical environment.
We have, obviously, like, you know. So
what about skills shortages or people shortages in your area?
So right across the board again, really. So we need the skills in Cornwall, and certainly Kirstein needs them. We've got a really active build process. You know, we're building lots of new homes. We're also, you know, we will be retrofitting lots of homes with decarbonisation work. So we need people who can design homes and can actually construct them, but we also need people who can diagnose faults and repairs and carry out those repairs on modern and traditional sort of types of construction. We've got properties of all different ages. I think probably the oldest property we've got must be 80 years old, something like that. And the newest one is probably about a month old. They're all varying types of construction techniques, all have different types of roof details. But we also need surveyors who have sort of wider skills and a bit more understanding probably with technology. We talked about technology earlier on. And also looking at things like waste and making sure that when we do these designs, we design as much waste out of those buildings as possible. That whole construction side, you know. Try to reduce the number of skips that are going on and off sites, which I know a lot of organisations are working really hard to do that. But quite often it's packaging, isn't it? There's a lot of packaging on sites, and we need to try and stop that. But the skills from our perspective are right from a customer service perspective, taking that initial call from a customer who's got some water dripping in through a ceiling or some other issue, and being able to diagnose that efficiently to get the right person there to fix the problem first time. And that first time fix is a real critical sort of target for organisations like ourselves, because that's really good customer service. And that's where that multi-skilling comes in, a breadth of skill, so that you can actually complete a repair and actually complete the making good around it and finish the work completely in one go, if that's possible. Sometimes it's not.
Yeah, you told me a story of you've had two people come from from the customer services who now qualified.
Yes,
surveyors.
fantastic. Two young ladies who work in my sort of side of the business came from the customer services area, worked their way through repairs, taking repairs calls, diagnosing repairs, got involved then with surveyors going onto site to actually see the work that was being done, and eventually then took qualifications and are now surveyors. They have a group of properties each that they look after and are part of the team, and really valuable people.
Okay.
Really valuable.
So, you know, it's not just what you qualify out of college with, you'll go on to do other things, which is kind of where you want to be, isn't it, Jack? You know, you started off thinking lead electronics, ended up in a T level on design and...
But because it's that varied, it's so many job roles you can be going into. But it's like, I mean, I had, on the T level, there's a 2-month, was it 360 hours?
Yeah, it's 250 minimum
15,
industry placement.
So you have an industry placement where you go around and the college help you find a placement, don't they? Which is really good. But you can just kind of see it all put into practical use, because, like, from what you were saying, they probably didn't have any experience to do with surveying beforehand, like, at all.
No.
They'd seen that side of construction with the like the management and all of that, and then they saw the surveying and were more eager with that. So
Yeah.
this T-level was a chance to do it earlier. You can see every side of it and be like, I want to do this.
I suppose that does come back down to the inspiration. You need to know what's out there
Yeah.
Absolutely.
before you can make a decision what inspires you to get
Yeah.
get enthused about a piece of work.
Mm.
Because what we want people is people doing stuff they love.
Yeah, exactly.
Now you're staying local,
I am.
and what are you going to do now? Your T level comes to an end, presumably soon after your
Not
exams
far
is
off
after
after
the-
it.
And the exams now.
So as we were saying about Nansledden, they've offered me a trainee role down there, and there's so many opportunities to do with what I want. They're happy to put me with like the commercial managers for a bit, with the engineers, site managers, see what I like, and then just follow that path. I'm doing the HNC,
Yep,
After
staying
staying with-
that'd be really good.
staying with Richard.
Okay. Well done.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know who. No. And so, but your vision is not necessarily to be what's your vision to be now? Have you got a clearer vision of where you want to go?
Not entirely,
No?
but I don't think it's that bad because
No?
I've still got the opportunity to decide. It's that varied still that you can just see, and then obviously you want to be doing something you love. So when you
Yeah.
find it, you can just carry on that role, and then you obviously do better because you enjoy it,
Yeah.
rather than being stuck in like thinking it's just a trade,
Yeah.
and then you think, right, I'm stuck in the trade route. There's plenty more opportunities.
I think that's it. I think it's a misconception, isn't it, of the industry in general.
Which I was just about to get on to.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, give us a misconception.
So let's take females in construction industry, for example. I think the average is 13% of the industry are female. I'm surprised it's that high from what I see. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Our average, I mean, this year we've got 3%
Yeah,
of our students are female. Got 341 students in the department, got 9 who are female.
Wow.
So, yeah, but why is that? I think it's a lack of understanding as to what the industry offers.
Yes.
I think when you say to a youngster in year 10 or 11 in school, if you were to say what is construction, they'll say house building. They probably won't go much further. It's a lack of
No.
understanding. And I think Giles going to school to a year 9 student, absolutely perfect.
Yes.
Paramount importance because they're about to take their options. There's very little guidance as to what the industry offers. I think if you say you're going to study in construction or go into construction, they think it's unskilled. They think it's uneducated. Whereas if a student gets a level 3 craft in, let's say bricklaying, it's a 3-year program. You get a level 3 with your A-levels in 2 years. So you're definitely educated. Some could argue more educated over a longer duration.
Yeah.
So I think it's those myths, dispel those myths really, misconceptions.
And just quickly, levels. You said level 3 is equivalent to an A level.
Yep.
Is it? But the higher level, we go higher levels, HND.
So
HNC
yes, so
would
you've got
be-
a level 3 is equivalent to A level, and the T level is equivalent to 3 A levels over 2 years.
Oh, okay.
And then you've got the HNC level 4, HND level 5, and then you start going to degree programs.
Okay, so 6s and 7s.
Yes.
All right, that helps me a bit because I've had a lot of this level 3 stuff. That's brilliant. Misconceptions. Is there any misconception you'd like to dash about construction or education or?
only from what I've kept on saying that it's not just trades. There's so much you can go into, and it's easier now with
Okay.
T-level to just, go for the higher management roles, or like you were saying, roles you wouldn't even imagine that are possible.
No.
Because the misconception in schools is you're a house builder. Like
Yeah.
that's it. That's all you get, and that's all I had up until I started college. And then you see this massive world of construction that you never even knew was there. So
Yeah. Misconception.
Well, Richard nailed a couple. Uneducated, and that classic sort of image of construction. So I've done careers fairs before where the parents are with the children and they're looking around all the separate store. People are set out and they're like, or you can see them sort of shepherding them away. You don't want to be doing that, So we had a discussion recently with some other people. It's not just parents, it's teachers as well at school.
Okay.
Teachers need to be aware of these discussions we've had. because again they have that same preconception. But yeah, pretty much it covers any job you can think of, doesn't it? Like,
Yeah.
Literally, construction is such a wide.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
You
the
can
main
do
miss.
finance and in construction.
You can literally design. People
Yeah.
say, "I want to be a designer." You can do that. And
Yeah.
if you're thinking they're designing, out of the construction industry, you can do that. So yeah, it's that's a classic misconception that people just don't understand how many different roles there are in the industry.
Absolutely.
And what about you, Mark?
Yeah, and I think I'd echo what everyone else has said, but I think there's clearly this move to using sort of more modern technologies, whether that's to do with sort of the heating type systems or whether it's monitoring in homes. And we need people who've got those sort of skills and understanding how we put those systems in, how we monitor them, and then sort of from an IT perspective, how do you automate that sort of information to get it to the right person who can then understand what's going on in the home and get it fixed really quickly. I think there's a huge opportunity, to expand construction as we know it, including the maintenance side and the general asset management, to actually use a lot more technology and start to think a little bit wider about why things go wrong in properties and how do you stop or predict repairs very, very early, because you can predict quite a lot by using technologies. I think the other thing I would say is we certainly, in my team, we've shown that there's a really good space for females to come into the construction industry. There's such a wide base of jobs and things to do that I think there's some fantastic opportunities, and I think that here in Cornwall, decarbonisation will be one of the hugest projects probably that we'll see.
And we want a local workforce because we know we've got our own housing crisis down here.
Absolutely.
Bringing new talent, so best to train and keep our own. So many thanks for joining me, Mark and Giles,
Thank you.
Jack and Richard.
Welcome.
We just, if you are a business struggling to find the right skills, or a person of any age wanting to investigate a new career and find the best education pathways, then go to the Truro and Penwith College website at truro-penwith.ac.uk. Feel free to connect with me, Russell Cosway, on LinkedIn. I'm the one labelled a kindness pirate, and mention the Future Skills Show. In the meantime, hope to see you on another show. Thank you again. Well, good luck on the exams this afternoon, and thank you for joining us.